All right, guys, it's day 2 on the Colt, and actually, me and Danny have been hustling, and we've already got the transmission reinstalled. There. So, it would have been a real pain to film, and honestly, it would have dragged on for, it took us about 3 hours. So I didn't film it, but all you need to know was the new clutch is in, tranny's in, we didn't run into anything too crazy. The crazy part comes next, and I am going to film this because I don't know what I'm going to do. But these rotors are supposedly press fit on. You can see I've already disconnected the strut. Now I have to deal with a really rusty ball joint and a really rusty tie rod end, and I don't really want to take them off. But I don't know what else to do. Take them off, put them in the press. I'm told there's giant, like, 3-claw pullers that you can buy, but I don't have one of those. You can see how bad the rotors were. This isn't from hitting it. This is how this rotor came. See that split? Giant piece missing. So I'll insert a little clip from a video when I bought this thing, because we were laughing as it rolled up on the trailer. It was just pouring rust out of the wheel. I'm like, oh great.
Oh, that was moving out.
Yeah. Yeah, problem. But what else have we accomplished today? I have the wheels dismounted. The junky tires are gone. I have new tires there. There's the tire machine hand-me-down that Danny snagged. Great find. So, brake calipers, tires, possibly brake hoses, possibly hydraulics, meaning master, and clutch slave cylinder. Clutch slave cylinder was working, but it looks crusty behind the boot, so I might replace it just because I have it, and it is easy to get to. But I'm going to wrap it for today, and head down to the auto parts store, because I have to get this boot. I have to get this filler neck tube, or something similar. So I'm going to head downtown and see if I can't grab that. But, Colt, on we go. Okay, it's rotor time, and what we're going to do, I thought I was going to take these off and put them in the press. I really don't want to mess with these ball joints. So if you see here, I'm going to put the rotor back in. I'm going to put the spindle back into the strut, and I'm going to try and heat the rotor a little bit. I have a puller that might not be big enough, but if that doesn't work, I'm just going to take a grinder to the face of the rotor, split them down the middle, and get them off, because taking off that ball joint and that tie rod end is not going to be nice. And they're good and tight. There's no reason to take them off, so we're just going to leave them there for now. Get the CV out of the way. Take these bolts and just stick them back in. Come on. Of course, everything doesn't want to line up. My hammer. Come on. Might have to mess up my threads a little. Come on. Can't believe that. There it is. Whew. Alright, harder than I hoped, but that's it. The only reason I didn't put that CV back in yet is because I think I have a replacement for it. It's got a bad clamp up here. Obviously, we're gonna have to take those off again if we do want to put the CV back in, but whatever. We'll figure it out. Now, wow, is that bearing? Uh-oh. We might need a bearing on this side. I have no idea if this is gonna work. Yeah, that's way too big. So I need to find a spreader. It's a lot bigger than that. There's no way. So these are way too long. We're gonna need a spacer. It's almost like this was made for it. So, you want to let me a hand? I think after we get this started, we won't need two people, but can you just hold these jaws tight? No, you don't. Not this big.
No, it goes on these.
I need to pull the rotor off, not the hub.
Oh, the rotor's gonna come off these.
Yeah.
Okay.
See how junk that bearing is, though?
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
You gotta heat it a little bit.
I don't know yet. Make sure it's not going to slip off.
You have to heat it.
Now we're going to have to put a clamp around the fingers once we get them tight. All right, so there's tight. I guess the spindle's coming off anyway. Just trying to get the remnants of the cotter pin out of the castle nut for the tie rod end, so we can zip that off of there. Lucky. Good. Tie rod's off. Or 19. So 19. I need my swivel sockets. Yeah. Can't do that without my swivel sockets, which I left at home. Okay, right tool for the right job. Swivel adapter, got this from Danny's toolbox. 19 mil, and I bet, look at that. Right on there. Beauty. Oh, come on. Of course, this extension's junk. Oh, this extension's been walloped, so it's no good. Hold on. get a better extension, or a worse extension. Might be just what we need. A worse one. Yep. Awesome. Well, thanks to Danny for that. While we're at it, we may as well hop to the other side and just get the spindle off over there as well. Awesome. Very good. We'll get this tie rod end off next. So all I'm trying to do here is hammer down the cotter pin, which is just really, really thin and rusty, so that when I spin the nut, it'll just break. There's no way the cotter pin's coming out of the hole. That's just not gonna happen. So just trying to make it offer as little resistance as possible. Luckily, we have a really nice impact. This Ingersoll Rand does a great job. It's very powerful. I'm really happy with it. That's all it is. So hopefully we'll be able to reuse these ball joints and the tie rod ends, because they're nice and tight. The threads are in good condition. So we just got to get them popped off. I think we'll start with the tie rod end. Come on, baby. There's that. Let's see if we can't get this ball joint separated. Perfect. So, did damage the boot a little on that one. Well, not much. Squeezed a bunch of grease out though. How's this bearing? Geez, this bearing's loose too. So depending on the price, I guess we're gonna order 2 new bearings. That's what that looks like. These are my brake caliper bolts. Time to get these over to the press and see if we can't get these rotors off finally. Alright, so the plan is we're going to put the whole spindle down through the bottom, let it rest on the rotor. I got the spindle bumping into the press here, so we're going to have to go up, which isn't a big deal. We just need to get it to pop. So we need to bring the table up. Everybody, when I was a kid, used to kind of laugh and jeer and whatever at people who wore gloves. It makes sense to wear gloves. This is just annoying. There are some situations where the gloves make it so you don't have the dexterity you need. I get that. I do. But in this scenario, I should have had them on. All right, here we go. Make sure I'm not binding on anything. Yep, we have clearance on all sides. keep going. Wow, that is ridiculously stuck. Holy crap. Might need to get some heat on it. Got a real bar here. Make sure I'm not bending the press. There it is.
It makes a racket when it goes.
We shattered the rotor too. That's cool. Nice. Is it actually out? I think it is.
Which one are you doing? The other side?
Yeah. Come on. There it is. See, we put that big crack in it. I couldn't believe that these are press-on rotors, and they might not be, but because I can't seem to find where I read that. But we'll see if the new ones just slide on or if they're going to press on. Anyway, the bearing has a lot of play. I think it would be smart to replace. So we'll order up a couple bearings and go from there. Time to get the next rotor off. Okay, so both rotors are off. I'm not sure that they were press fit. You know, I don't know where I read that, but I quickly threw the spindle in the sandblaster and just cleaned up around that edge, right? And the rotors slipped back on like nothing, like right down flush. So maybe they're not press fit. I swear I read that somewhere, but it might have just been really bad rust. Regardless, they're off now. Both bearings are a little loose, but not terrible. They're not growling, as far as I can tell. And that's going to be a decision to replace those based on price and availability. So I need to call a parts store now. If they're really cheap and they're not a week out, I'll put the bearings in. If they're expensive and they're far away, I'm not going to do it. For this project, the goal is to get it running, driving to a point where it's ready for the next owner to drive it home, not to the point where it's immaculate. I'm going to be totally honest with whoever I'm selling it to, that I'm doing the really hard work, and then the restoration stuff is all them. So I'm going to make any sort of mouse smells and whatever go away on the inside, make sure everything's working, make sure that it's drivable and safe. But, you know, things like this brake hose, for example, which should be replaced, and some of the brake lines near the rear of the car should be replaced, the metal brake lines. I'm not going to do that yet. So we're just going to get it listed up for sale, see if there's any interest in it, and that's going to determine what next steps are. So the point right now is to get it driving. So let's price these out, and if, like I said, if they're readily available and cheap, we'll stick them in, the bearings. If they're not, we're just going to throw this back together with new brakes. Rotors, pads, and calipers will all be new. And then we can move on to the exhaust and the fuel filler tube. I'll show you my solution for that. Of course, this is not available. And turns out this broken one that was in here was actually a Volkswagen. See that? Heater hose. So I don't know if it failed because of fuel contamination on the rubber, probably. Unfortunately, we're going to have to do the same thing. I got a random heater hose, similar bend in it. We're going to cut this to length and stick it on the fuel filler neck. So yeah, as you can see, this side's not in, but I did the same thing. Oh, I'm going to sandblast the wheels. So I'll do a before and after photo of those. Because they're going to be painted up, and I think that's really going to make this thing look nice. It's actually all one color. The paint's not in terrible condition. So a good wash, maybe a light buff if I feel like it. is really going to clean this car up. Anyway, on to the next bit, which is going to be pricing out those bearings. All right, the update is the bearings are not available and expensive, so we're not going to do the bearings. Spindles back together, both sides. We had a new CV axle on this side, so that's nice and shiny. Next, brake calipers, brake rotors, pads. I already sandblasted one wheel just to see how well it was going to work, except I need more of these films for the sandblaster because I can't see what I'm doing. So we're making good progress. Everything's coming along well. Before you know it, it'll be moving on its own power. Check that out. Fancy looking, huh? Gold. I don't know why they did that color of anodization, but whatever. Nicely rebuilt. I mean, these were rebuilt a long time ago, though, so... Mitsubishi. Looks like they were stamped 2, 1, 3, 4. I don't know. I don't know when they were rebuilt, but a long time ago. The boxes are old. That's the passenger side on. Just got to tighten it down. Rotors. This is tapered, so technically I think they are press fit. I'm going to use the wheel to suck it down in there. Take the wheel back off, double check, make sure this ring is equal around the whole way. I was able to tap them on with a hammer a bit. I mean, I'm not going to put them back in the press, that's for sure. So, we'll do this one next. And, I slapped a coat of primer on one of the wheels. I'll show you guys that. Just the primer, I mean, a million times nicer looking than that. So those are going to get nicely painted up, and I think that's going to make a big difference in the overall appearance of this Colt. I touched the exhaust, and unfortunately the exhaust is the rustiest part of this whole car. The rear muffler broke. So I don't know exactly what we're going to do for exhaust yet. Haven't decided. I might do right off the cat, do an L out the door. It doesn't matter at this point. The first things first is to get it running and driving. Then we can do cosmetic details a little later. So, yeah, I'm going to tighten those down, and I'm going to move to the other side. On we go. All right. Here we are back on the Colt, and it's a beautiful day, so the doors are open. It's like 57 degrees out. It's probably going to be minus 10 tomorrow, something like that. But anyway, I just mounted some wheels and tires. Well, I just mounted the tires on the wheels, I should say. So they're looking pretty nice. Get those up on the car after we bleed the brakes. Right now, I am preparing to booger weld this very crusty exhaust back together. Now, I know this exhaust needs to be replaced. I'm not just hacking this together, and then gonna claim that it's good. It's a bad exhaust, it needs to be replaced. The parts are unobtainium, so really something custom needs to be done, probably. For now, I'm gonna put it back together and call it good enough. Not good, but good enough. We'll get it back together at least so it's somewhat quiet. We need to weld here, and we need to weld here, which is where the muffler came off. Now, I know a lot of you guys are thinking this car is way too rusty to be wasting my time with, but it really isn't. You have to understand, this is an old Japanese car from New England. This is solid. This is savable. It's got rust. I'm not denying that. It's got lots of rust. But it has little enough rust to make it actually worth salvaging, which is rare in this area for this type of car. Maybe out west you guys still have these on the road. I had never seen one until I bought this one, ever. I didn't even know they existed. So, long story short, I think it's worth saving, so I don't want to hear about the rest. But, welding time, then bleeding time, refill with oil and transmission fluid, and then we can test drive. So that'll be exciting. So on we go. Very rusty. Not going to get a good weld here, but It is what it is at this point. Yep. It's so rusty, it's not even worth trying to find a ground, or it's not worth trying to create a clean ground with, you know, wire wheel and stuff, because it's all these weird rusty angles. It's just gonna stay crap no matter what I do. So we might have got something. Stay. Line it up, put some pressure on it, right there. Nope, move my ground. Ow, rubber glove. So there's a small, look at this mess, unbelievable. There's a small tack there, and then up on the hanger. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna introduce some new metal up here, some sheet metal, to the hanger to make that stronger. And I'm just gonna keep making a mess out of this. But hopefully there won't be really too much stress on that joint. Obviously the engine's gonna rock. I'm not expecting it to last very long. So this piece of metal we're gonna make into a patch. So much rust.
Huh?
I said so much rust. Well, that's gonna leak like crazy, but it's on. Oh, it's on and it's terrible, but it's gonna be better than nothing. I'm not going to show you guys that because it's terrible and I'm embarrassed, but it's something. So I just noticed that I'm missing way too much, probably from up there. So I think we're going to have to modify a little bit back here. And this is so rusty anyway, that's fine. So we'll probably cut this off right around there and do a hard 90 and come out and do a side pipe just for the time being. Why not? I think that's gonna become a downspout. Because why not? Downspout. Done. Ugly. There's that terrible thing. And brake bleeding time. Well, the clutch bled easy. So there's the slave right here. And it functions perfectly now. So we fixed the clutch. A little bit of drippage there that I missed. Dad hit the brakes. We have a leak right here. And I'm not surprised. There's going to be other spots for sure that these lines need to be replaced. She's really, yeah, the whole line needs to be replaced. At least back to here. So we have rust here that's no good, and here that's no good. So, that's probably it for the rear lines. Basically everything from, where am I? Okay, so we're gonna go here, right below the passenger seat. Everything here back is probably no good. Yeah, it's crusty right there. And then we go into our rubber line, back to metal. This metal's meh, it's not great. Okay, so I changed my mind. That was a bad attitude. I'm gonna fix the brake lines in the rear. One, I know it's gonna make it easier for me to sell, and two, there's no reason not to. I'm just being lazy. So we're gonna take these lines right here, cut them, flare them, and go back with new lines, because you see all through here, it's quite bad. So I took this down. You know, and these are interesting that they thought of these. They have the mounts in them, but they always rust where those mounts are. So engineers take note. And so we're gonna go all the way back, trace it back. Here's my hose, and we'll start by trying to get this out of the hose right here. If I can't save that, we're gonna have to find hoses. I know they're not in stock anywhere. The other thing too is I don't think I'm gonna be able to get these bleeders to crack free on the wheel cylinders. So we're gonna need those at some point. But I'm gonna put some WD-40 on those now to get started. Soaking. Same thing right here and right here. Okay guys, so the trick with these is to realize you've already been beaten. There's no point at all in trying to use a wrench on this, okay? This nut is rusty, the line is frozen, it's frozen in the threads. There's no point. Also, we're replacing the lines. The trick is you cut the line with your tin snips and you use a socket, okay? A wrench just isn't gonna work for you. So use a socket. It looks like in this case I'm gonna have to get a shallow. But first things first is we cut the line. So I think for this one, I'm gonna come in from this direction, right above where you guys are, and cut. There we go. So that's that done. And the only reason we're doing this is because we're considering saving these temporarily. Okay, otherwise we would just cut everything out. There's no reason to screw with it. See, we got some fluid in there, some built up pressure still. So that's gonna drip. And now with that cut, let me get my 10 mil shallow and we'll see if we can't get that off of there. Okay, there I am. Yep, that's gonna fit. I'm just gonna work it on there. But you see this, I have interference here where I can't get my socket on. Now, you can use a 6-sided, box end wrench if you have one in this scenario. So I'm gonna try and find one of those. All right, good news. I have a 6-sided 10 mil, which is basically as good as a socket, almost as good. So we'll find our happy spot on there to get that down onto that. Wow, it's pretty sad. Does not want to. Is this a 10? It's a 9. It was hung in the wrong spot. Let me get a 10. All right, I found probably the cheapest, worst quality 6-sided 10 I've ever seen in my life, but I'd still try that first over a 12 point. No, that's gonna slip, so I'm not gonna try it any further. Let me see if I can get a 1/4 inch ratchet on there. All right, better yet, I had this little 1/4 inch breaker bar. Is it gonna be enough room? Yep, that's on there. Will she come out? Not without some more convincing. So time for heat. This thing is garbage.
It won't. It won't. Are you trying to save that post?
Yeah, right now. Well, since I don't have any torches that are working, we're gonna have to let that sit for a bit. So let's move to the other side and see about cutting that.
Gotta get another 10 minutes. Now we're gonna spin the line. Oh, I don't know. It's pretty bad. Ow! So the retainer failed. Maybe now we can do it since we have a little more access. Vice grips the line, 10 mil on, and see. Hold the vice grips or something.
That 10 mil is way too big. Gotta go down to a 3/8. And actually, I could probably get heat on it now that it's not up near the car.
Give me this one.
I gotta tighten those. Yep. Careful not putting too much down pressure on that line.
I got it.
So that's one. That might be the solution on the other side too, is we'll just break the retainer, which is rusty,
get the line down here so we can work on it. Well, let's see here. We can't slide the retainer around a bit. Oh, that retainer's in good shape, unfortunately. Doesn't seem to want to let go. I wonder if we can just bend this so I can get the bigger ratchet on there. Yep, there we go. That's better. So now I can stick my full-size ratchet up on here. There goes the retainer. Socket is stuck. Let's see if we can. Good. So there's that. We're going to do the same thing that we did on the other side. Lock this on nice and tight. Okay. There we go. That coil does work if you're patient.
Yeah, it does.
Good. All right, guys, so I have a vet appointment for Tucker. I'm going to head out of here, and I'm also going to buy brake line while I'm downtown and come back this evening, and we'll see about getting it further together. On we go.